Hello everyone. This is your host, Akil Jabbar, and welcome back to another episode of SaaS District. In today's episode, we'll be talking about how you can start implementing AI in your marketing campaigns. Today, we have our guest, Eric Vardon, joining us. Eric is an accomplished AI tech entrepreneur and advisor with more than 20 years of experience and success in different verticals such as marketing, advertising, health and wellness, fashion, technology, and the digital industries. Eric's broad areas of expertise include brand development, digital strategy, entrepreneurship, leadership, and growth. Most notably, Eric is the co-founder of Arcane, which is a digital marketing and advertising agency where under Eric's leadership, they grew from 0 to 15 million in just 6 years, which we'll talk about today. Currently, he holds equity positions in multiple rapidly growing organizations and is focused on his current game-changing machine learning and AI tech venture called Morphio. So Morphio is an AI-driven anomaly platform built for advanced marketers, described as the first marketing security software, where it integrates your marketing data in one platform and delivers insights from landing page health, marketing and AI anomalies, segmentation, budget recommendations, and many other marketing and analytics anomalies. So welcome, Eric. Hopefully that was a good introduction, and glad to have you on SaaS District today.
Yeah, thanks, Akil, for having me. Appreciate it. Looking forward to chatting.
Yeah. So I want to hear that story you talked about where you built that agency. So starting Arcane, you went from $0. I believe you started that in a basement with a friend or a partner to $15 million, 40,000 square feet building, 3 offices across the country, and all within 6 years.
Yeah, excuse me. It was a crazy time. We're still in the building. John and I, ironically, both have a floor to ourselves, and often do sit on separate Zoom meetings, even though we're only a floor away. So, but yeah, it was a crazy ride, and we actually started the business on the outset of the last downturn and through 2010. So as the economy started to recover, clients and brands were really looking for a return on their ad dollars in accountability and traceability in terms of where those monies were going, which weren't really questions or comments you would hear before the downturn. And so we kind of rode that wave and brought in tech in the development side and SEO, and well, ultimately we're just accountable to results. And our clients saw on average $15 out for every dollar they put in, and it became a pretty simple business model. Do what we say we're going to do, get a return, and then continue to compound that. And that's how we kind of rode the wave, grew with our current client base, and then we're able to bring in net new clients on top of it. And yeah, that was the growth.
Nice. And what was your agency focused on? So you said SEO, a little bit of paid advertising. Was there certain verticals or size of businesses you were working with, or just kind of a broad range?
It started out mainly as any lead gen business that had a traditional media budget, that weren't really doing much in the digital space. And then we would piece together the quickest strategy that we could to turn on any kind of paid performance, usually at that point, Google Ads, Bing at the time, just to get them started, get tracking, get leads flowing into their CRM. And then prove that the investment was providing a return, and probably for the majority of them who had never really seen live data, to be able to see that traceability week over week, month over month, etc., became quite addictive to them. And so we employed pretty much every tactic under the sun up until today, of course, in enabling our agency to grow meant bringing in new specialists in areas that we didn't offer, and that just made the returns that much more deep. Albeit as more competitors and the landscape changed, the returns maybe weren't as great, but in many cases still were far above anything else that they had done previously from an investment and marketing perspective.
Makes sense. And did you guys raise any external capital for that? Or was that completely bootstrapped, using revenue to keep fueling the growth?
It was 100% bootstrapped, and I think the funny part was that, as we mentioned, doing and dipping our toes in many other businesses, we really wanted to start the business to fund other investments, like most service side businesses do, and we did. And so a lot of profit went out the door to projects and startups that ultimately failed. But we were still able to really grow the business on the heels of a few fantastic clients. And then, after a few years go by and you realize you need to put the focus in the main thing that is driving your success. That really allowed us to rapidly grow from there, and then limited our investment opportunities for a few years while we focused on profit and growth.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
And then can you tell us about your decision at that point on deciding to build Morphio? So from how the idea took form, how you validated the market early on, and why you decided to step down as the CEO. As if you were doing 15 million in revenue at that point, what was the decision there?
Yeah, so I'll start there again. We're, as entrepreneurs solely and sort of tech nerds and loving the process of building the product and executing on the product. We are not and we're not and maybe lucky enough to have great advisors, but we knew what we were good at, and we also knew what our strengths were not. Leading the company efficiencies process, the financial focus, building in the processes underneath around people and leading the people was not something that we had a lot of experience in. And so we looked at moving aside so that we could bring in leaders that was their core competency, so that we were all left to do what we do best. And so that was the reasoning behind that. And many people think what we did was a little crazy early on, but it actually gave us enough time to coach and train and educate each other on what we do best. And it's allowed us for great partnerships and great growth. And also the transition most often is very difficult to do, specifically for founders to get out of the way. I think early on in the business of agency, we realized that there weren't any profitable, affordable tools that were enterprise rich that we could afford as an SMB agency or an SMB marketing group. We did a lot of investigation, a lot of looking into what our inefficiencies were from an operational perspective, and just couldn't find software that moved and shaped and looked like what we did. And I think that was really the initial infancy of Morphio, from a landing page tool to more of a framework itself to allow us to build websites smarter and faster, specifically for performance and not for beauty first.
Yeah.
To now what it is today, which is ultimately protecting marketers and helping them grow. I mean, that's why we started our business, was to help our clients realize a return greater than they have ever seen before. But it was at the detriment of people that were really stressed out, overanalyzing analysis of marketing data, and to the point where you just couldn't keep up. And so that's sort of where Morphio came from, was building an algorithm that could do a lot of that repetitive, mundane work, and then tell us when something was out of whack, or from an anomaly perspective, when something was falling outside of what it was meant to be. So that was kind of how it all came together.
Cool. So you're kind of scratching your own itch internally at the agency, and you realize there's others that could probably benefit from it. So I'm assuming you were probably fueling the growth and development of the product using kind of the agency revenue. What was the decision to raise? I think you raised a $1 million seed round, especially in Canada. It's a bit more challenging there. What was the process like there?
Well, I mean, like anything, it was the first time that we had raised the capital directly, and we're fortunate enough to fuel some of our other investments again through hard work and profit and our own money. But we knew what we had learned best from some of the things that we had failed on through the service side was we needed strategic partners, we needed the right team, we needed obviously cash in the bank, and we needed expertise. And so we took a lot of the learnings from other businesses and started to focus on the raise and finding an angel that could give us the runway to be able to really expedite the growth of the business. And it was a personal growth marker for me, just going through and understanding the process of talking to family offices, to private equity, to angels, and everything in between. And I loved it and can talk about it at length any point in time. Also understanding the pitfalls of it and some of the things that you need to look out for. Ultimately the reason for pulling it out and separating it was to have that core focus. We did, and are fortunate here in Canada to have great funding from both IRAP and Insert and Engage platforms early on for our business to be able to have support through government programs. But we also knew it wasn't going to be enough. And so that's ultimately where the cash came in, was to really be able to formulate the team, the product, and get into the acquisition channels.
Makes sense. And then, speaking of the acquisition channels, so for Morphio, you have $1 million now, you have expertise, you have an agency. What marketing strategies would you say have worked for you guys to date to reach the level of success so far? And how do you plan to allocate the capital you've raised to continue to grow?
Yeah, first and foremost is to spend the money like you don't have it. We run the business as cost effectively as humanly possible, and inclusive of, like, most founders should not be paid. And so I would echo that as long and as hard as you can hold on. And so we are very stingy when it comes to deploying too quickly. So we know we're marketers. It's easy to turn on a campaign, and we're quite focused on it and smart about it in some respect. But right now we have very, very small budgets across. After many investigations on LinkedIn and a few others, we see great return in Reddit. We see great return in Facebook, and we see fantastic return in display and some of the remarketing things that we're doing. Our biggest issue right now is conversion to customer from trial. Like most SaaS are dealing with what we think our product does and where the value proposition is. And so we know that we are going at a pace where we can properly have those conversations with customers. We're building our next evolution of our product, which I'm happy to talk about. So we have a really good idea of what our metrics are, and are not just going to spend money to bring in leads and prospects into a bit of a leaky bucket. So we're very focused on the SEO side of content and building our brand and really trying to own this marketing security space. It will then go into sort of marketing growth and where our AI is going for that. But again, it's really being 100% focused on what our numbers are, where we see a return, and then looking through Mixpanel analytics and all the other tools that we have, and really trying to follow where our customers see success. And then 9 times out of 10, we're talking with our customers at length to just really ensure that we are solving problems that each of them are having, and not just building a tool for ourselves.
Cool. Are you able to share any of that data? If not, that's okay. What is it, kind of your cost per lead? What is your conversion ratio from your page visitors to trial, and then you're saying your fall off is from the trial to paid, and maybe just share some high level numbers there.
Yeah, I mean, it's I probably won't share too much of it, but
Sure.
I'll give you a high level. I mean, ultimately, it's we see right now about a trial user a day.
Okay.
And ultimately, we have currently a 14-day free trial. Ultimately, around 17-ish% of those converts to customers, and then there's some lag of how long they stay, which we only really started in April, so it's not a factor or metric yet. We do everything we can to just keep holding them on, and we've got some great free tools and some sticky stuff to do that. But many of the things that are it's too early for us to say, but we know right away within that data that the conversion itself is subjective, and it isn't a marker as much as the amount of accounts that they're signing up, the amount of times they log in, the amount of the emails, and the way that they're distributing the communication of the platform to themselves. And then are they setting up the KPIs of the engine itself? So we have our own sort of micro metrics inside of what it is that they're doing. That's really where we need to see some growth on. But it's 100% our focus, and our OKRs collectively across our small team, are shared around solely increasing the stickiness when it comes to those pieces. So
it's not bad. 17% is actually pretty decent. I'm assuming a lot of that will probably have to do with your onboarding and kind of your focus there. Right?
Yeah, and it's high. Yeah. It's high touch still, which is not scalable. So that's sort of where with the amount of sort of trial users at this point, it's like the percentages will sway next week versus the week before. And so it's really around decreasing the low touch side, creating more automation, easier onboarding, time to value, all those kinds of things. And it takes months and weeks to launch, deploy, and test and redesign and build and launch and test and deploy. And so that's kind of the patience part, is you need cash within the product to be able to have that patience, versus the service side, which is we'll just go get a bunch more clients and then we can drive revenue that way. So it's a very different world, and we're loving it.
Makes sense, yeah. So suggest to you and also our audience that if that's kind of an issue on the onboarding side, check out Jeff Epstein from onboard.io. He also had a podcast on how to perfect it. So he did a really good job at Get Ambassador on how they set up their onboarding and had really good results there. So if you want to check it out, I suggest you check that out. So equally important is to understand, the failures and tests that didn't work. I'm assuming you did deploy some capital maybe early on, and maybe some tests you did that didn't work as you hoped, even though you're marketers and experienced there. Can you share any growth strategies or stories that didn't work with Morphio or any of your previous ventures?
Yeah, I mean, I think we looked at LinkedIn as, we did a bunch of growth hacking stuff, which I won't get into necessarily, but you you test and you try a whole bunch of different things. There was a period of time where I was using some specific growth hacking tools and using LinkedIn to generate what I thought was important in terms of interactions and impressions through my network and building my network, and then creating content, publishing it through that way. And no lift, no return, maybe some awareness, and people I know saying, oh my God, how are you able to write all this content and such? And so, you take that and you pivot and you move it into more of a focus. So then we pushed everything to the blog and started to create more of a richer SEO experience, and then focus on more of a backlinking strategy to deal with our organic and our SERP ranking, et cetera. And so those are that's one example. Obviously, we did a bunch of tests from a paid perspective through LinkedIn, knowing it would be expensive, but figuring we would see, some positive return, et cetera. Didn't at any point. And then so just honestly, every week testing and trying new things, and some stay and some go away. But I think surprisingly, it's the steadfast and true Facebook. Not much on the paid search side outside of branded, but we now are using our dollars fairly wisely on third-party research, creating, again, one of our reports called Agency Confessions, which talks about the amount of mistakes that the 301 agencies that we pulled make, so that we can have conversation and create a campaign around what others are feeling and the other issues that are happening. And those examples are, broken tracking and pixels and issues with budgets turning on too early or late, or mistakes in the campaign, all this costing hundreds of thousands of dollars. That's an important thing to talk about, because our software solves all of those issues. It's very easy to go think, just put up a bunch of ads and you'll get a return, but we actually need to speak to our customers. And I think that's what we learned through a bunch of mistakes, is speak to them with the things that we know are causing them to stay up at night.
Got it. So just to kind of reiterate, so you did try some organic LinkedIn, or you attempted to build content there on your platform. Also a bit of paid there to drive it back. It didn't work as well. And then you did focus to, SEO on your own website, and you are seeing better results there, you'd say?
Yeah. The SEO part is just, foundational. It's also part of what we believe and why we've built a few pieces of or features within our tool that do some interesting things, which of course we're applying to Morphio itself. But being thought leaders, writing true content, we know has a long tail opportunity for us. And we've invested probably over the last 12 to 18 months in a lot of content that continues to drive good traffic. We're now moving into more of a referral focus, a whole bunch of other kind of cool things. But yeah, the SEO is a big one. And I would say the focus of employing, in our case, HubSpot, and creating efficiencies through Slack and through other tools to ensure that we're communicating properly and tracking all of those things is a huge importance. And then overall, from an analytics and tracking perspective, we are highly bullish and quite focused on making sure that we are tracking absolutely everything, which is a full-time job within itself.
Got it. So what would you say makes Morphio different from some of the other digital marketing, AI automation platforms? So I think some that come to mind are, Ali SEO. I think that one is, they're trying to be. Market Muse, I believe, has a bit of that. I guess I know it's not completely the same, features, but curious what makes you guys different from the other ones.
Yeah, I think first and foremost is from a machine learning perspective. We're a small team of engineers with a few years of building our algorithms tested and proven of, multiple millions of dollars in client, consumer, B2B brands, across the globe. And so we're able to hone our algorithm over a few years, and ultimately that is our biggest competitive advantage. Any tool or software that's going to start and come out of the gates now is and has a difficulty being able to attract the right data to prove that their algorithm works. So overall kind of concept in terms of why our technology is proven, which I think is an important piece as anybody's looking at employing or starting or testing out any kind of software, is to make sure that it's proven and the team behind it, has the experience to ensure that your data is being managed properly. Ultimately from a features perspective, the anomaly detection of, plug in your data, never have to worry about the analysis anymore. Give Morphio your acquisition targets, your impression targets, etc., and remove yourself from having to go in and out of Facebook and Google and all these tools every single day. Let the machine handle that analysis so that you can be better and smarter. Our anomaly detection and our ability to crunch our algorithm, there aren't many that have those feature sets from anomaly perspective. Lots of tools out there that can do some really interesting SEO, reporting, dashboarding, analytics software. But our next evolution, which you'll see in early September, around correlating this data and giving suggestions and opportunities for marketers to know what to do about how to increase their cost per lead, will really separate us. And we're super pumped of where that part of our business is going.
That's super cool. Who's your focus audience anyway? Is it SMB? Are you focused on other agencies, or are you more enterprise that are best using your product?
So the funny thing, so our focus out of the gates was agencies, because that's where our story came from. It's why, and it's easy for us to identify, especially through our early onboarding of high touch and having conversations and demoing and all those kinds of things. And we quickly found that marketing teams are all looking for the same thing. We're all run the same way, whether it's 10, 20, 50, or 100 of us in a brand or an agency. We almost function collectively exactly the same. And so we serve mainly the SMB space, which is, again, because it's affordable, we kind of call ourselves light enterprise. We're not expensive. We're actually quite cost effective for what you get. So we have marketers and consultants that have a two-person shop. We have agencies that are 10, 50, or 100 people all over the globe. And we have a few huge international or multinational, publicly traded businesses with core brands within their group that use us for certain things, and hopefully that will expand into others. But the interesting thing I think that I've learned is that we're all the same. We're all using the same tools, maybe a little bit differently. We're run the exact same way, and our issues are all identical. And so hopefully that means that we can be agnostic, but we definitely are trying to keep low touch and not go up market too soon, because we really want to provide great technology at a low price point, and going up market means that we're going to have to increase our prices and go against our beliefs with that. So we'll see what happens, but we love the SMB space. We love with companies and brands that are scaling.
Makes sense. Yeah, I always understand it's always easier to go from upper market than it is to go down market. So I think you're going the right way. Yeah. So when you're building any machine learning model, I guess the quality of your data, the input that goes in, is probably the most valuable asset to give you proper output. How do you ensure both that you need enough quantity of data and the quality of data is used for the analytics is there? And do you measure like the margin of error from the user input that they attach to? Or?
Yeah, so the best and sort of interesting part is that Morphio's only required connection is Google Analytics. And we do that as a measure of exactly that. If it's garbage in, it's garbage out, and nobody's going to see any value. So you have to have enough volume of performance or traffic and enough awareness to have your Google Analytics, conversion events and goals set up properly. And functioning to be able to monitor. We have a Shopify integration, whether it's e-commerce, lead gen, doesn't matter. Morphio doesn't care, but that's our own factoring to ensure that if that's set up properly, the rest is up to Morphio and the success of the business. So it's a little bit of how we gauge the ability for marketers to come in and know that they're going to see value in it, and ultimately, because we were able to test and monitor our algorithm inside agency and previous, we've already sort of tested it, but we knew if it was going to be bad data in, there wouldn't be any value. And so that's why we put that measure in through the GA part.
What's the minimum traffic that typically will work well for the model?
I mean, Morphio works best in chaos, and the more
Mhm.
campaigns, the more data variance ultimately is where you're going to see value. So if you're a small brand and you're getting a couple hundred visits a week or month or something, there are features from an SEO perspective, budget tracking, all those little kinds of things you'll see value in from Morphio's feature set. But ultimately, with the power of the anomaly detection means feed it as much data as you can, as many campaigns, as many as accounts, as many Google Analytics views. That's where you're really going to see the compound value of the platform itself. And so, as we move to more of a freemium model where anybody can protect their budgets and their analytics and their data, the growth part of our platform will really add value to agencies and brands that are and have complex campaign structures and huge needs from a data perspective.
Got it. So if I'm a SaaS marketer or founder of a tech company such as yourself, how should I even consider start using AI within my marketing plan or budget? So if I have a team, an SEO team, or somebody analyzing, somebody doing paid, but I want to use AI to automate a lot of that and remove kind of margin of error from human error. How do I even get started? I feel it's overwhelming.
Well, I would say Google's your best friend, but I mean, there are so many great software solutions out there and in communities to kind of support it. But, I would say there's also some infancy in knowing exactly where to go. I would say G2 probably continues to be the place where you can get a good sense. If you're a platform in SaaS, you're going to be on G2. If you're not, then that's a whole nother problem. But I think you usually start there to try to get some awareness of where you sit within your competitive side. I go there and I look for products that are recently deployed, and that's where I get a sense of what they're doing. And I look for if they have low reviews. You basically can get a sense of maybe how new they are. Why I like that is because generally they're more cost effective. They're testing. They're open to cost effective ways to test for maybe some strategic partnerships. So as any good SaaS person on a budget, if there's a deal to be had on both sides, then let's support each other and do that. I mean, you got to know what it is that you're looking for. When we first started, we were using some sort of growth hacking tools to make HubSpot work, and we found a few pieces out there that allowed us to kind of automate our LinkedIn lead gen through a couple other little tools that would automate it into HubSpot and allow us to automate into Slack. And so we knew what we needed to do, and we sort of searched for functionality and technology to help us with that. So know what the holes are that you're trying to look for. You got to be really hacky right now because most of us are still trying to build our awareness and credibility in the sphere. But I love to test and deploy and try new things. And I think you just got to be, you got to be focused on doing the digging to try to find them. So.
It makes sense. And right now, as you see kind of with your agency and what you're building, your marketing is driven by people. Do you think it'll be shifting to AI and be completely automated, or do you think it'll be a combination, predictive plus human, maybe decision making and just the judgment, the final decision, like, okay, this is what it's telling me, and then I decide yes or no, and let's implement. And basically, it's just like a simple answer like that, or what do you think there?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, first and foremost, the robots and machines are not coming to take our jobs, and we as an AI company solely believe our mission statement ultimately is to create freedom for marketers to be more awesome and happy. Our vision statement is really centered around a world where automation, creativity, and predictive analytics can all live symbiotically. So for us, it is use machines in the best way that they can, remove the mundane, anything that is repetitive, create a machine that can do it, and allow us as humans to be able to be free to creative problem solve and to do what we do best, which is, think and process. We will always need to educate and inform and train the machines to do what we need them to do. But in terms of the compound effect of data and the pace and the speed of which marketing specifically and technology is moving, we have to use machines. We have to accept the fact that they need to live within our strategy, our AI strategy. And if you don't have one, deploy or think about what that looks like to deploy. But absolutely, I look at it as if we can free up time and if we can ultimately do what we do best, then the machine side of machine learning and AI will actually allow us to be happier and more free to do the things that we love to do. And to me, I take a positive approach on it, but that's the way I look at it.
Yeah, so there's a lot of new solutions of these, predictive marketing softwares being built. I'm showing up to the office as a CMO. What's your take on how my job looks like, or the future of marketing looks like? What am I doing there?
Yeah, I mean, I think it takes the ability to accept that machines are going to do a better job of crunching data, that's not rocket science, but it is embracing it and learning it. I'm not an engineer. I am not going to sit here and tell you that I understand half of what our doctor of machine learning, Nima, builds. Even though every week or so we spend time on, what's new in AI and how does our algorithm work, et cetera, et cetera. But I know enough to be dangerous, but I've also spent my time learning and accepting and understanding how it functions within my environment of the business. And I think any other CMO needs to do that. From an industry perspective, you're going to start to see a huge amount of consolidation across tool providers and solutions. So with reporting, data analytics, CRM, et cetera, there's going to be a lot of acquisitions and I believe a lot of consolidation of bringing those together because it's too fragmented. And so it needs to be holistically built together. That's going to take some time, but
Sure.
In the future, it will be one organism that has a multi-function underneath of all of the things that you're going to do. And it's going to mean that your team of humans is going to be also doing different things. So I have a rough idea of what I think that looks like, but I still think we're at our infancy. So for right now, getting our hands dirty as a CMO, playing with these tools, understanding what they do is a big one. I would say the other thing is don't expect the machine to do everything for you. There's definitely some expectations around, well, if I turn on something like Morphio, it's going to solve all my problems. Well, I mean, at some point in the long distant future, maybe that's the case, but marketing is actually more complex than ever. And we know what it takes to launch a campaign. To be able to monitor that is going to mean that we as CMOs actually need to get our hard and soft skills back in alignment. So a little bit of what I think is going on there.
Makes sense. And what is the rest of 2020? What are some features you guys are excited about adding on?
Yeah, so I think I touched on it briefly, but we've spent the last sort of year on this notion of protecting your spend and your budgets and your campaign performance and, tell me when my cost per acquisition is out of line. What we've realized is there's a lot of noise that comes with that. And in terms of the noise, it's okay, you're protecting me and I'm seeing that. I'm seeing these anomalies, but now what do I do about it? And so our next evolution is all about, here's the correlation as to why your acquisition targets are up or down. Here's what's going on across all of your channels. So now you don't have to log in and out of each of those to find that information. And also we're providing a suggestion engine to say, here's the things that you could perform. And what we're really excited about is there's a feedback loop where we're going to provide our users to be able to say, so this is how Eric would actually, I don't agree with what Morphio is telling me. I could, and maybe I agree with 2 or 3 of them, but what I'm going to do is X, Y, Z. And we want to be able to store and create that feedback loop so that Eric can inform other marketers of what he would do or what in terms of execution and solving those problems. And that's ultimately where we believe our tool will go, is to create an entire feedback loop of suggestions and an engine that will actually drive even faster opportunities for campaign success and growth. So super, super excited about that.
Makes sense. You're using the feedback and the data to improve the neural network and learn better, I guess. Makes sense. And
Exactly.
Does it connect with Facebook as well? Facebook ads, Instagram ads?
Yeah, yep.
It
So
does?
our main connections exactly, as well as Microsoft and advertising in LinkedIn too. So, and we're adding new connections all the time outside of Shopify and a few others. So, yep.
Excellent. So last question. I know you mentioned in an interview you'd liked Rand Fishkin to read some of that questions you had on there. We actually have Rand joining us on SaaS District on an episode next week, so I'm actually be interviewing him. So he has a very interesting product similar to you guys with SparkToro that he launched a couple years ago. Are there any questions you'd like to ask him? I'll pass it towards him.
Well, it's funny because when I was reading or listening, I guess, to Lost and Founder, I was going through my own process of raising capital, and it was a great bit of timing. it was a great bit of timing because I was going down a sort of multi-seed raised approach and a whole bunch of other things I won't get into. But it was, I had some feelings of the market and sort of what I was hearing from investors, and it just didn't make sense to me. And his book actually helped shape a lot of what it is that I was trying to accomplish and thinking in a very succinct way. So my only question maybe for him is that if he started up a new company again, I would love to know what's next. And it sounds weird because you just launched SparkToro, but I think as an entrepreneur in the space, there's always something going on. So I want to know. I'm sure there's something there, so I want to know what's next for him, which again seems weird, but if you can ask him that.
Sure.
Hopefully he'll probably say like, I got too much going on, I don't want to talk about that. But,
exactly.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll throw it out there and see what he says.
Sure.
Awesome. Cool. Last question, I guess, where can our audience get in touch with you, Eric, and learn more about Morphio?
Yeah, I mean, Morphio.ai, morphia.ai. But LinkedIn, I'm fairly active. I'm always there. So Eric Vardon, V as in Victor, Ardon. Just find me on LinkedIn. And happy to chat. I love connecting and meeting other SaaS marketers, SaaS builders. Open to chat. And so find me there. Yep.
Thank you so much, Eric. We'll put those in our show notes and people can connect with you. All right.
Fantastic.
Thank you so much. Thank you all for listening in to this episode and joining SaaS District today. Don't forget to leave a review and subscribe for future episodes where we interview top leaders in the SaaS industry. If you're a SaaS company looking to grow and unlock the true value of your business, get in touch with us at horizoncapital.com. And myself or one of our consultants will provide a free assessment to help you get there and hit your goals. If you have any feedback or suggestions for this podcast, please DM us on Instagram or LinkedIn at Horizon Capital and help us improve our content for you all. Thanks again and hope to see you on the next one.